Hello, everybody. That was horrifying. Sorry we're 5 minutes late. Massive technical issues as usual. If any of you guys who know me know that I hate tech and I am not very good at it. So, anyway, I've got to come off that, get out of that mental space and get into the mental space of what we should be doing and just say hello and really well done to everybody. Welcome to another Photography Lockdown live judging. Reading your comments on this brilliant challenge of Benno's has been really moving and inspiring. I can see he's triggered some really deep things within many of you, and the effort and work you have put into creating something to talk about your childhood has been phenomenal. If you're not sure what Photography Lockdown is, you're just kind of looking at this out of curiosity, you can either click a link below in the description, or you can go onto Google. If you search Lockdown Mike Browne with an E, B-R-O-W-N-E, you will find it. It's a bunch of challenges, competitions, and awesome judges like the one I'm about to introduce you to. So how's this going to work? In a moment, we'll meet Benno. Forgive me, I'm using two computers, and because of the tech issues, I am having to check what other people are saying. I'm getting messages coming in two places. In a moment, we'll meet Benno. Now, please, as we go through this broadcast, post questions for him. You have got an amazing opportunity to speak to someone astonishing here. We will go through those at the end in a question and answer session. We've got a few images which we're going to discuss, a little discussion session. These are pictures which are, okay, they're not groundbreaking images, but we can really see that whoever took those pictures was thinking, being creative and trying really hard, and that is what this is all about. And I want to give you guys as much encouragement as possible. We'll look at the runners up, and then Benno will announce the winner. So first of all, I just need to share a little thing here with you. Last year in October, I was privileged to be asked to teach and run workshops at the International Photography Festival Exposure in Sharjah in the United Arab Emirates with some seriously big names, and we met some awesome and lovely people. And so that's where I met today's judge, Beno Saradzic, who is a photographer, filmmaker, time-lapse cinematographer. He has more awards than you could shake a stick at. While I was running workshops, Benno was knocking them dead in the auditorium and showing people around his exhibition. He works all over the world, doing all sorts of amazing things and taking some truly breathtaking and inspiring images. Now, photography isn't his only thing, as I'm sure you'll find out when we start to chat, but I think you'll agree his work is pretty stunning. So if you have any questions about any of Benno's work, please remember to post it. We will address it in the question and answer. But first off, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Beno Saradzic. Hello, Benno.
Hello,
Benno,
Mike. How are you doing?
Oh, you gave me a heart attack then. After all the trouble we've had with audio, I thought, no, he can't hear me.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, my
doing?
friend. I'm good now.
Good to
after
see you. Good to
all
see
the
you.
problems we've had. How's things with you out there in lockdown out there?
Pretty locked down. It's been, I don't even know how long, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I haven't even seen the outside world. So yeah, for somebody who is shooting, making living with camera, you can imagine this is not the best of times. But I'm managing. I got quickly adopted into this situation, this new environment, and getting used to it. And things are now melting down in Dubai. So things are loosening up a little bit, hopefully stabilizing, and hopefully we can regain our normal lives soon. I'm hoping.
Absolutely, yeah. And thanks ever so much for coming on here, because, this is to try and keep people from going completely bonkers during lockdown, maybe improve their photography a little bit. And I just want to ask you a few questions, and I hope you don't mind, Benno, but do you mind telling us a little bit about how you learnt photography before you got a camera?
Before I got my camera, well, I didn't really learn photography with the camera. I learned it the odd way. In my previous life, I had a career of a visualization visualization, architectural visualization, if you wanted. So we would take blueprints from the architects and interior designers, and we would convert those drawings into photoreal renderings that we could share later on with designers and architects and real estate sales and marketing people, so they could sell the project forward. And that required quite a bit of creativity, because when you're receiving flat blueprint from an architect, you need to visualize that building, what it's going to look like when it's completely finished in the environment. So we would build three-dimensional models with computer workstations, and we would apply textures and lighting and place virtual cameras, and then render out those buildings and then merge them with actual backgrounds, with actual environments where those buildings would be standing. And I don't know if you can imagine, but that takes a lot of imagination, vivid imagination, because you're building worlds out of nothing. You're building them absolutely out of nothing. Mm. And in the end, that rendering needs to look real. It needs to look like something that's already there, that's built on location, and it needs to look credible with all actual finishes, with the actual realistic lighting. And it was a big challenge. It was a big challenge.
So remember,
and I've been doing that for quite a long time.
Yeah. Now I remember you saying, or I remember hearing somewhere, possibly from you, about how you learned photography though through doing that, and you picked up the camera as an extension of what you were doing, and then realized because of the pre-visualization, you kind of knew how to do it.
Yes. So when I actually picked up my first camera, digital camera, I've been fiddling around with film cameras back in the early 90s, but it was just hobbyist, easy kind of photography, as a tourist if you want. But I've kind of taken it a little bit more seriously when the first digital cameras showed up. So in 2008, I got a PowerShot G9 from Canon. It's a little compact camera with a built-in zoom lens. So I started tinkering and experimenting. So I took it out and I started shooting, nearby my house, taking pictures of buildings and trees and desert and whatever came in front of my lens, and then just seeing what is the potential of digital photography, bringing those images in front of the computer, editing them, improving them, and just learning the good stuff and the bad stuff about digital cameras, particularly about limitations. But what I did have is the good solid foundation of creating realistic looking images, not realistic looking images, but artistic looking images. I knew how to manipulate an image to make it look appealing, about depth of field, about composition, how the light and shadow affect the perception of space and depth of the image, what it is that it makes it look appealing. So just image theory in general, but not necessarily how to achieve that with a camera. So for me, it was actually about learning about the buttons and dials of the camera and what they do, not really about the principle of image making. I already had that, a really good foundation. So I sort of put myself on a 6-month course, using the camera, taking lots and lots of images, and just seeing where that goes. And I've had good results, positive results, inspiring results. And then I started submitting those images to certain contests on social media, getting feedback from people. Getting their feedback was really interesting because it made me realize, what it is that works, what doesn't work. I was feeding off those various channels. And I think very quickly, I felt confident enough to start doing commercial jobs. I really liked it. I really liked what I was able to produce with the camera. And it gave me another way of expressing my need to create visuals, whether it's with a computer or with a camera or with a combination of two different tools, because I did a lot of digital imagery, combining CGI, so computer-generated images, with photography. And I found my niche, and it was fun. And then it got even more fun with time. So yeah, one thing led to another, and before I knew it, I just became a commercial photographer.
Something I think, excuse me, something which I think is really interesting that you said there was you were talking at length about photography, which was about visualizing it, etc. And you said very little about learning photography. You said I had to learn a few knobs and buttons, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very interesting concept, because so many people believe that Actually, the camera is a really complicated thing, and there are too many knobs and buttons and stuff. In fact, I'm quite interested to ask you, what cameras do you shoot on these days?
Oh, right now I'm shooting with Fujifilm cameras, medium format cameras, the GFX 50 and the GFX 100. But yeah, a lot of different cameras, just depending on the job, whether I'm shooting time lapse or whether I'm shooting architecture, I will use different cameras with different lenses depending on the task. So yeah, this changes quickly and often.
And would you,
But
sorry, carry on. I didn't want to interrupt.
no, I was going to say, I actually brought in the camera that I used in the past. This was my 2008 camera. It's a PowerShot G12. But before that, I had a G11, and before that, I had a looked exactly the same, very tiny, very compact camera. But for me, that was more than enough to learn about the buttons and dials, because if you look at today's cameras, they are in fact exactly the same concept-wise. There are three buttons that you really need to know, which is about aperture, shutter, and ISO. These are the three most important settings on any camera, and it doesn't matter how big the camera is. Once you understand what is the relationship with shutter, between shutter, aperture, and ISO, you have pretty much understood how pictures are taken with a camera. And it doesn't matter shooting on a film or a digital camera, Canon, Nikon, Fuji, Sony, or pretty much any other brand. All the basics, everything you need to know about photography starts with a camera as big as this one. So yeah, I started with this one, and then I wanted to experiment, for example, with long exposures. And because this camera, I don't have the battery charge now, so I can actually show you the lens. It doesn't allow you to mount any neutral density filters or polarizing filters. I got myself a third-party filter mounting hood, I don't know what to call it. It attaches to the camera, and once it snaps, okay, more or less like that, it gives you a filter thread mount. So that allowed me to mount different filters on it, polarizer and neutral density filter. So I was able to drag shutter, get long exposures, get beautiful, deep, saturated blue skies with a circular polarizer and so on. So it became creative photography, even with a little amateur camera like this one. So yeah, it started like that, and then you realize that there are certain limitations about a camera. It can go as fast on a shutter, it can go as long. You realize that the camera is producing quite a bit of noise and so on. And then I said, well, I need a better camera. And then I got my full frame camera, and the picture quality improved. And then I realized, well, I need even more pixels because I like shooting really wide panoramic images. So I started stacking images, did panoramic images, and then changed the camera. And you grow with camera, but I didn't buy the camera first, a really big camera, and then find out that I'm actually not good enough to actually use it, that I didn't actually deserve to have that camera. I grew with the camera, so my needs grew with the camera, or my camera grew with my needs, I'm not sure. One or the other, but yeah, it was a very organic, very natural growth. I didn't force it, I didn't stress the need to have the latest, the best right now and all of it. I wanted my skills and my storytelling skills, more importantly, to come before my camera operating skills or camera management skills. So I never focused on camera. I really focused on the craft of image making and storytelling.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, cameras don't take pictures, and we kind of have things like the big Fuji and the big medium format digitals and all the rest of it, because work like yours does need to be super high resolution. It does need. There are occasions when I guess your work is blown up the size of a house, which I guess for most hobbyist photographers, that ain't going to happen. It's like, but how interesting the picture is, how evocative, how exciting. I would assert that it doesn't matter what camera you've got. That's down to your use of light, your imagination, your creativity, which lens you use, where you stand when you click, and all that stuff.
Absolutely. I think if you know how to make a good image, you're going to be able to make it with a smartphone. In fact, I've done some really, really nice shots with smartphone, and did even HDR images with a smartphone. I was bracketing, I was focus stacking, and so on. I did a lot of things with a smartphone, in fact, just to prove to myself, in fact, that I can create a really good image regardless of the camera. I put myself on this challenge, and Yeah, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's always, always, always about the person behind the camera, and it's never about the camera itself.
Yeah,
Ever.
absolutely, absolutely. But many people say they want to get their photography right in camera, and the post-production is kind of cheating, and it's not really photography. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think the image is actually finished when it's in the camera. It's like a composer's score. Composer's score on paper is just a composer's score. You still need somebody to perform that score. And that performance is going to change completely depending on which orchestra is actually performing that score and who is the conductor. So I can actually guarantee you that if you take a picture with your camera, any person, and you take that raw file, and then we give this raw file to 100 different photographers and ask them to process that image their own way with their own eye, I promise you that you're going to end up having 100 totally different looking images.
And post-production,
because this is what image becomes yours. This is the point. The image becomes yours once you have actually processed it. And before that, it's just a light acquisition on the sensor. You know what I mean?
Oh, completely. Yeah, absolutely. It's I always say to people, post-production has always happened ever since the early days when they were putting emulsion on pewter plate and bleaching it and dyeing it and fiddling around with it. All the great photographers dodged and burnt and did things in their black and white darkroom. And
exactly, and they will zoom in.
Yeah, exactly.
This is kind of
this is where the photographer puts their own little interpretation and seal and final polish into the image to help the viewer understand what's this about.
Well,
and if
look,
you don't
Ansel
do your post,
Adams was known for that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I can see we'll get all excited. We were getting all excited the other day when we were talking on Skype. It wasn't happening again. What else was I going to ask you? Because I'm aware we need to move on a bit because I'm late. Guys, thank you so much. I can see there's lots of questions coming in. You're not forgotten. We will go through as many as we can a bit later on. Benno, what inspires you to get up in the morning? What excites you?
Breakfast. But after that, I just like making images. That's really it. So whether I'm shooting for a client, whether I'm shooting for myself, or whether I'm just reopening the images that I've already taken 2 years ago and then re-editing them and then seeing how that image looks different, it shocks me every time. Because I really believe that images reflect your soul, they reflect who you are at that particular moment. They're not just some of all the moments up to that particular one when you started editing the image, but they reflect that particular day. So if you're not feeling particularly happy, if there's something wrong in your life, I'm actually pretty certain that that image on that particular day is going to reflect that. It's going to have it in its DNA. So I believe the photography is something really intimate because it shows something from within you. It actually speaks something about you.
Exactly. I mean,
that's what I really enjoy about it.
I'm always saying to people, you need to have a level of inspiration and excitement about you if you want to create an inspiring, exciting picture. And it's a little bit of getting yourself into that state of mind. People will often say, "Oh, my pictures are boring because I live in a boring place." Well, don't hang out in a boring place. Then go and find something that excites you. It would be like, me, I'm not a landscape photographer. I don't have the patience to sit on top of the mountain waiting for the light to change to the right moment and all the rest of it. I'd much rather run around the streets of a country I've never been and document the life.
I know plenty. I know a lot more than I would want to, actually.
But yeah, I probably ought to go on a little bit faster and then we can start looking at some pictures because there's lots of exciting things that your challenge brought about. What would you say to someone who's starting out and is maybe lacking the confidence in their ability and they're kind of like a bit, oh God, am I any good? Am I ever going to get this?
Very simple. Take as many pictures as you can of absolutely anything you can think of. And I think that confidence is not something you're going to gain when you buy a camera, because if you're a bad photographer, you're going to take a bad photograph with a $10,000 camera. I promise you. So take a lot of shots of about anything. Take lots and lots and lots of pictures and just learn from mistakes. We are going to know when you actually reach that point that people will be impressed by your work, that your client will be impressed by your work. But most importantly, you yourself, you're going to know that you've done something really interesting, that you've done something really cool, something that inspires you, something that speaks of you and about you. It's a very
Absolutely.
natural process. You
Yeah,
don't have
yeah.
to fake it. You don't need to fake it.
It's about fulfillment as well. It's kind of like
Yeah.
there are many apps and gadgets and things that you can get bells and whistles. I'm continuously being bombarded by ads for bits of software that sort of basically says, here, get your crap picture, bung it in here, we'll change the sky for you and make it look amazing. But there's no fulfillment in that. There's no, wow, I did that feeling. It's just like, here's a great picture. Look, everyone, look at my great picture. But you know you're lying. You know you didn't take it when
Yeah, I know.
it's bizarre.
You're gonna know. You're just gonna know when you did the cool shot. I don't know what it is, but it's like when you look at it, you're gonna. I took that, and it feels good. It's really, really, really rewarding. I love
It,
that feeling, and it's always like the first time. It doesn't matter how many pictures I've taken, how long I've been doing this. When I take a great shot and I look at it, I get the same buzz I got 11 years ago. Nothing's changed, and this is. I don't know if it's like this for everybody, but for me, I feel that the day comes when I'm not feeling that buzz. It's probably time to start doing something else. But I really doubt it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it would have happened already.
my mentor said much the same to me when I was learning. He said the day you show up to shoot something and you haven't got butterflies in your stomach and a little bit of sweat on your brow, that's the day to stop. Benno, I just need
That's
to, it wasn't so much a question as a comment, but I do need to just read it to you. Forgive me, guys, when I'm not looking at you, it's because I've got two computers going on here and I'm trying to run the software and do a million things, and I'm bare of very little brain. But we have a question here from actually an old friend of mine, Jennifer Williams, Jen the Jam, who's been in a few of my YouTube videos, but she just wants to know, what do you have for breakfast that's so good that it gets you up in the morning?
It's really complicated. Does she want the full recipe, or there are a lot of ingredients? So if you have a pan, this is the moment.
Okay,
It
this
starts.
isn't, no,
It needs to be a rolled oatmeal, rolled, not the other one, steel cut, rolled. And then you do half a cup of that. You add zero fat yogurt. You do a bit of flax, and then you add a bit of cinnamon, and then acacia honey. You stir it really nicely. You add not 11, 12 walnuts, full. And then when all that is stirred and done nicely and it's got a nice consistency, you turn the cup. If it doesn't fall down, it's proper. You add a few blackberries, blueberries, and a few slices of strawberries. Breakfast.
I knew that was a mistake to ask. Jen's going to be delighted because Jen is a chef and a cook, and she's been on TV and she runs a kind of like boutique brand, trendy naked jam, really, really good stuff. And she will be all over that like a rash. Right. Okay. It's time we
Yeah.
moved on a bit, I think. So,
Yeah.
Benno, would you mind bringing up our, discussion pictures? These are some that share your screen, bring up those discussion pictures, and we
Okay.
can just have a run through. So, guys, these pictures are some that actually I chose. Benno's done the runners up and the winner. I have no idea what he's chosen. You never know, we may get an overlap here. But these are just some pictures I chose because I want to give the people who took them a little bit of a shout out. And just see if Benno and I can give you a little bit of feedback along the way, because they may not be winners, but I say I'm in danger here because Benno may have chosen one as a winner. But there's some I just chose and just wanted to give the photographers a little mini critique. I just wanted to say, I think this is Pedro. Pedro, my thoughts, we'll get Benno's in a tick. I like what you're doing here, but I just think it's a bit underlit. I think it wants a little bit, where the highlights are, I think they need to be a little bit brighter. I get that it's moody. I get that it's your
I would say
childhood.
it's the lighting is muddy. That's what I would call it. Muddy in the sense that you can't really perceive the depth well because it's underexposed and there's no clear direction or intensity of light. So it's lit in a way that it seems almost it was light painted with a torch, or maybe it was just dodged and burned in Photoshop. But it's a very flat sort of lighting, and you can't really sense the space of this particular setup.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, I can't even make out what I'm looking at, to be honest, in terms of props.
It's one of those things. It's kind of like if you're going to do the moody look with the dark and all the rest of it and the highlights, you've got to make the highlights stand out so the shadows stand out. But I think, yeah, Benno's muddy word is probably pretty accurate, but good try. I get it. I can see that you've got some things, you've put them out, you've given it a go, and to me that is the most important thing, because nobody on this planet was born knowing how to do photography. It's
With a camera in
practice.
hand.
With a camera in hand, exactly. No one's born with a camera in hand, or understanding about pre-visualization and all the rest of it, which Benno is an expert in. In fact, there's a question I wanted to ask you about that. I'll try and remember when we finish doing this. But yeah, nice effort, Pedro. I congratulate you for taking the trouble to try and put together something about your childhood. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work. I think you needed a bit more exposure and a bit more light. Shall we have a
Next
look at the
one?
next one, Benno?
Yeah. Okay.
This one made me laugh.
What would say?
This one made me laugh. It's so annoying because I've got the wrong glasses. Whose is this one, Benno? I can't read it on my screen.
Linda O'Neill.
Linda O'Neill. I loved your comment, Linda, about the doll's unladylike pose. I like the fact you've tried. Again, you've got something out and you've given it a go. But you've got a serious white balance issue going on here, unless it was intentional, you wanted it to look yellowy. And I think, again, it could do with a little bit slightly different lighting. Another little tip for everybody: don't put your things right hard up against the background, because it always looks kind of odd. It looks like they've been shoved against a wall. If you bring them away from the wall and use a slightly shallower depth of field, it will help you a little bit. But it's a good effort, Linda, and I like the fact you gave it a go. What do you think, Benno?
Yes, I like it. Same comment. The white balance, I would have corrected that to bring proper colors back, and maybe a little bit more texture in the background. I just don't think I'm a fan of a plain white wall. Or if cannot be done, I would have moved it away from the wall as well, or change the lighting to emphasize the shadows, like maybe bring it closer to the window and just create a bit of a mood. Because right now it looks like it was illuminated by an incandescent bulb or something like that.
And I mean, a quick way, of course, we've no idea where you are on your photographic journey, Linda, but it's like, this is why your camera has white balance settings. Maybe you're not in a place to correct it afterwards, but if you were to change it to a tungsten white balance setting, then maybe the colors would have been a bit more accurate. But of course, we don't know. Maybe you chose those colors. Maybe you like the yellowy look. Maybe you felt it was nostalgic. Sorry, Benno.
Actually, it looks like a bit of a mixture. It looks like a mixture of sepia with color.
Could be.
Right?
No idea. Let's have a look at the next one.
Okay.
Do you want to go first?
Yes. Again, I'm not a fan of a background which is so flat, and the fact that you can't see shadows, it makes this box appear as if it was floating. You can't actually feel the contact with the ground. And it sort of bothers me that there's no clear separation between the banknote on the left side and the background. And again, lighting is quite flat. Not a fan of the lighting, but I like the setup though. I like, again, the prop. It's not even a prop, it's an actual item. How do you call it? The chest? The chest.
It's a money
chest
box.
Of coins and banknotes. It's a money box.
We call them in England.
I'm guessing there are very few of those still around, so it's cool that Pat has actually kept one and used it for this particular purpose, probably for the first time. And for this particular reason. So it's really, really cool. But yeah, the lighting, I would primarily improve the lighting and maybe the background as well.
Pat, I would say exactly the same things as Benno. Now, something I need to say here is, no Pat Millett Wells. She's a veteran of many, many of my overseas photo workshops. So well done, Pat. The other thing which intrigued me about this is I had this exact same money box when I was a kid. Exactly the same, only no idea where it is now. same money and all the rest of it. But yeah, that's all it was really, Pat. Same as Benno. It's like, and I know what you're capable, so I'm giving you a push here. You could have done better, Pat Millett. I know what you're like. I've seen your work. But yeah, good one. It just needed a bit more light, a bit more contrast, a little bit more oomph. And yeah, this is a definite must try harder. You wait till I see you next. Yeah. Let's have a look at the next one then, Benno.
Next one will be this one. Okay, you go first.
Me first. Who's it by? I'm so sorry, I can't see it on this screen. I should have worn different glasses. Who's it by, Benno?
This is by Steve Bagnell.
Steve
Steve
Bagnall.
Bagnell.
Steve, thank you for putting it in, and I also take my hat off to you for, going and doing something. You didn't just plonk something on the table. You put in quite a bit of effort. You put in effort to get that wheel on the bicycle to move and to spin, and that took a bit of work. People, you've got to realize that you don't just walk around with a camera and take a picture. You make pictures, whatever it may be. It's about being in the right place, having the vision, having the pre-visualization, and working backwards and making that reel in the camera. So I salute you, Steve, for getting into action and finding a way to make that bicycle wheel spin. I read what you said there. You were on your own. Unfortunately, I think you got so lost in making the wheel spin, you didn't really pay quite enough attention to the creative content of the picture. I get it. It has a childhood feel to it, yours and many others. But it's kind of like hard to know quite what to look at first. And the light is very, very flat. And I don't know, maybe there are different approaches, ways you could have done it with the same ingredients, perhaps. I don't know. I get what you're saying. Maybe if the bike was all in there with a wheel spinning, and then it would maybe have focused it more. If you had the whole bike, you were further away, the whole bike, but the wheel spinning, like a kid's just run in and dropped it. And the fact that the wheel would be spinning, but you could see the whole bike, might draw more attention. I don't know. But good effort. I want to salute you for putting in some work. That you didn't do that in 5 minutes. You didn't just plonk something down, and good on you for practicing. Keep it up, because practicing and testing and finding things that didn't work and then going, why didn't it work? And then having another go. That's where we learn. That's where we learn. What do you think, Benno?
Well, I'm just thinking because he actually choreographed the whole thing. He brought in the elements that makes this picture: bricks, the board, the bike, and the hopscotch drawing on the ground. I'm thinking I would have chosen a little bit different background that has less going on. For example, I'm not a fan of that black pipe on the wall because I think it's taking attention, and that wire in the corner, it's drawing attention to it, and this is not probably what the author wanted me to actually look at. I'm thinking the most important things are those elements that are part of the story in here, which is the bike and the hopscotch, and maybe those three lines for the cricket, right? I don't know how you call them. I'm not a cricket fan, but I'm guessing it's for cricket.
I'm guessing too. I don't understand cricket.
Yes,
strange.
I'm thinking. Yeah, so I'm thinking, first of all, you just crossed my mind that I would have preferred to see this picture in color, because the red bricks would probably look better, because the lighting was very flat. Maybe picture was taken in a shadow, or maybe it was taken on a cloudy day, and it just makes the whole picture look very flat and not engaging enough. So I think that if it had to be taken on this particular day, color would have done it a world of good. The wall would be separated from the ground, and I think the whole image would look a little bit more interesting and dynamic. And I would have actually cloned out that wire in the right upper corner, and I probably would have cloned even that black pipe. So the only thing that would remain would be those things that are part of the story, which is the bike, the hopscotch, and maybe the football. So less being more, and less distraction and more story.
Yep, I totally agree. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah. I love this one. This was actually one of the images I was looking at. I thought it was really interesting because it's an unusual point of view, which I personally remember. And I think every kid does, because we spent a lot of time on our knees as little kids, crawling on the ground between chairs and tables and hiding from our parents, and teasing them, pulling on their trousers, and just do a lot of no good. I remember this point of view. It made me laugh. I really liked it, but it's not the best of shots in terms of light. And again, it's quite messy because the background, which I'm looking at, is a library. It sort of distracts. There are a lot of vertical elements in the background, but we take attention away from the foreground, which are the legs of the tables and chairs. But I like the story. I like the story of it. I like the vantage point. And I think it's a little moment that triggers the memory of a childhood. It's a unique perspective of that particular time in anyone's life.
Ditto.
That
Absolutely. I'm really delighted you're quite excited about this too, because we haven't had any discussion about these. It's like Benno didn't even see these till this afternoon when I went, oh, Benno, can you bung these in Haley Moody, I've now found a way to find out who did them. Haley Moody, I really want to give you a
Haley
big
Moody, yeah.
shout out. I really do. For all the reasons Benno said, the second I saw this, I thought, yeah, it's not the best executed picture and there's more to go, but what a brilliant idea. What a brilliant, brilliant idea. And I quite like the light is quite good. But it's like, it's just too busy. I don't really know what it needed. It doesn't quite work, but 1,000,000% absolutely keep rocking it, Haley, because you're thinking outside the box and you're trying things out, and that's where the gold lies. We try stuff out. I also salute you for having courage to get in there and put pictures up, because I've had a few messages over the last couple of weeks and people saying, no, I'd kind of like to join in, but I don't think my pictures are good enough. Well, that's not what we're here about. We are here to judge, but not in that way. This is about supporting and learning and keeping you practicing. So good on you,
Yeah.
Haley.
You know, Mike, in creative photography, commercial photography, your client will actually be looking what it is that you can bring into that particular job in terms of your skills, in terms of your thinking. What is it that you can actually add to whatever brief they've given you? They're never going to ask you, well, which is your camera? What sensor does it have? Which lens are you using? I've never received this question. They're expecting you to take them on a ride to create a visual that they haven't even imagined. And that requires a sort of thinking that I'm seeing right here in this particular shot.
Absolutely.
Most people wouldn't be thinking to take a picture from this angle, but a professional creative photographer is expected to deliver a surprise. And this image is this kind of surprise. So maybe if the camera was turned a little bit to the left and we would be seeing maybe a cleaner background, maybe that image could look completely different, maybe a little bit better, or maybe even worse. I don't know. There's something off with it, but as an idea, it's excellent.
It's absolutely, yeah, exactly. Now, I know there's probably a few people who maybe listening to this are going, really? It's just a few chair legs? But this is what Benno was saying. This is about thinking outside the box. I get daily messages and emails saying, what sort of pictures should I put in my portfolio? How do I fulfill what the client wants? The thing is, you need to go with your own creativity and what you want, because then you will find the clients who like what you like, instead of having to try and sell your soul to the devil and do stuff you don't want to do and you don't like doing, and therefore you won't be that good at it. But yeah, I love this.
It will never be for the gear you own, that's for sure.
No, definitely. No. I have never, ever. Actually, I have. Sorry, Benno. I have. I had one situation whereby it was for somewhere where there was not allowed to be any electricity within the area. There were lots of inflammable gases and things like that. And they said, we need these photos and safety and all the rest of it. And it was back when I was starting out. I couldn't really afford anything. And I had some ancient old Bronica S2 cameras, pre-battery, fully mechanical. And I did get hired purely on the strength that I said, well, have you checked the other people who are tendering for this job? Because have they got batteries in their cameras? Oh, we hadn't thought of that. I said, okay, well, I haven't. I keep these specifically for these sorts of jobs, and it's like, I was making that up.
Mike, if my client told me that they picked me because I'm using that particular camera, I would have been really depressed. I would question my entire career path. I would question my entire career choice. So yeah, I'm happy to say that nobody has so far asked me which brand I have and how many pixels that camera has.
Oh, no, absolutely. Nobody cares. Michael Christopher Browne, photojournalist, American photojournalist, he was at Exposure as well. He's done a whole book. He did a whole book about the fall of Gaddafi in Libya and etc. It was all shot on phones. All shot on phones. Stunning, quite scary, but stunning photography.
I'm sure. Cool. Shall we go to the next one?
Yes, let's go to the next one.
Then we have this one. What am I looking at? We're looking at the book that is sort of disintegrating from Masuma Batul.
Yeah.
Why have you chosen this picture?
Me? Because I like the textures. Masuma, I really like the textures. I even kind of like the sepia look to it. but somehow
It's a
it's
Quran. I just realized it's a Quran. It's a
yes, the
Quran.
Quran. Yeah,
It seems to be an ancient Quran. I haven't read. Okay, I realize it now.
yeah. No, actually, I tend not to read anything unless I've looked at the
A
picture and
very
think I
old
like the picture.
edition, and it seems to be printed on a fabric, on a canvas of some sort.
Who knows what it's printed on? But I mean, I love the
Uh,
textures and I do like your light, but somehow it doesn't quite work. And I wonder if it needed a little bit more space around it or a different angle. I'm not sure what it is, but again, Masuma, I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a shout out and a bit of encouragement because I don't know, maybe the light needed to be coming from slightly more in front, coming back this way a little bit. I don't know what it is, Benno. What do you think? But I like.
okay. In general, when I see picture which is primarily lit from the front and then sort of fading into the darkness as we go away from the camera, it makes the picture look flat. So I would have reversed the lighting so that the brightest part would be in the distance and the darkest closer to me. This is what creates the depth in the image. And I would have chosen the focus as well, maybe bring it into the center of the image so you actually see the letters of the Quran in the center of the page instead of focusing on the actual pages in the foreground, on the slices of paper. And change the camera a little bit, so show a little bit less of the depth of the book. Move the book a little bit lower and show more of the upper part of the image where I think the focus should be. So instead of paper, I would have focused on the actual words of the page.
That is, I think you're right. I think that's the key because it's like I did kind of get it was the Quran when I first, but yeah, you don't know unless you look at it for a while or think about it or read.
Because it was lit in a way that the first thing I've noticed was the paper. I couldn't even actually see the letters until I
Yeah,
looked again and actually it's an Arabic scripture.
yeah. It's only because a friend of mine has a very, very similar Quran to that actually, and that's I kind of went, oh, it's a Quran, but that's the only reason. So
Okay.
nice work, Masuma. Nice work. Nice try. Keep going. Keep rocking with it. Should we look at? I think it's the last one actually,
Yes.
Benno, and then we're into
On
your
this
runners
one.
up.
Yes. This would be the last one, yeah?
Yeah, Paul Brett. And I kind of pulled this one out because again, it's someone who has tried. They have had a go at
Mm-hmm.
this, by actually going and getting something and going outside and messing around in a tree. Now I don't know, Paul, whether you just kind of threw some, Action Men toys into a tree, took a picture, went back indoors to watch telly. But I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and think you gave it a go. I understand where you're going, but it's just too busy. It's just too busy. Um, the light doesn't really work. Light is one of the most important things in all of photography. Apart from you and the way you think, light is the most important thing in all of photography. And it's just like it doesn't work. Maybe a different time of day. Maybe with the light coming behind the action man, instead of looking up into the branches, wouldn't it have been a bit different? Think of the shot of the tables and chairs. That was thinking differently. How could you do this thinking differently? Could you have maybe got a ladder and gone up the tree looking down at them in the tree? Maybe you looked along a branch. I don't know. I salute you for the effort and for trying, but it's too busy. That is my big thing, and it also looks like there's a bit of washing line hanging down in the bottom right corner, that yellow, which doesn't quite work. How about you, Benno?
Yeah, same thing, same thing. I'm looking at the lighting and I notice that it's the top of the tree that is lit up from the left side, but the bottom is actually still in the shadow. So I'm guessing this was taken either early in the morning or late in afternoon when the sun was either rising or setting. So it's only the top part of the tree which is in the light. Therefore, it would be probably much better if the camera was turned, let's say 90 degrees to the left side, so that figures would be actually illuminated from the front side instead of from the rear side. Because right now we're seeing their faces in the shadow. So if the camera was if the camera was turned to the other side of the tree and then recomposed in a way that it looks less busy, because all I'm seeing is branches right now. So less branches and more characters with a better lighting, maybe this image could work. But frankly, I wouldn't even try. Frankly, I actually don't think I could actually make this image look better with this particular tree. It just looks too busy. There's just too much going on, too many branches, especially those thin branches. I don't know. I don't know if it would work.
Yeah, I completely agree. But, well done, everyone. We've just had a little discussion session. I hope you found that valuable. You've got a serious master critiquing some of your work there, but I certainly salute all of you for giving it such a go, such a try. Excuse me. So, shall we move into your runners up then, Benno?
Yeah, let's do that. So we are now. Let's try this one. Okay, this one. The moment I saw it, I absolutely fell in love with it because this is what storytelling is to me when you're taking a picture like that with this particular concept. Everything is beautifully done, from the framing, from the lighting, the relationship between cold hues and warm hues being the inviting ones, which represent home and family and safety, and cold hues of the night, which you can literally feel the breeze of the cool night, and the story between mother and child or father and child, and the candle. It's just expertly lit, expertly framed. I love this shot. I really, really, really love it. And I think it tells so much in a single frame, which is the hardest thing to achieve when you're doing a photograph of a scene like that, because you do not have a benefit of a motion picture where you can tell the story, over a course of minutes or hours. You need to tell your story, all of it, with a single picture. So everything needs to work. All the relationships need to work. Everything needs to be clean. Nothing should be ambiguous. There should be no distraction in the frame. There shouldn't be anything in there that makes you ask, well, what exactly is it doing there? Everything I see in this frame tells me exactly what I think the author wanted to tell. Everything is in the right place, in a perfect composition, and it just tells a perfect story. And it's a story of love between a father and child, mother and child, reading of the book. It symbolizes the childhood, every childhood, or most children who had happy childhood. Not everybody was this privileged.
I
That's what
completely
I think.
agree. It is a lovely, warm in the emotional sense. It absolutely exudes love and compassion. Um, and it is just beautifully put together, just the blue in the background. We got these intersecting triangles of the blue and the black above it, and the triangle of the tent, and the V almost triangular shape of the book. There's lots of repeating triangles in there, and that often works as a compositional device. But I'm guessing the photographer who took this one, Benno, I can't read this.
This is by Annette Worm, with a V, Worm.
Annette.
Annette
Yeah,
Worm.
congratulations, Annette. I really think you did a stunning job. Whether or not you actually consciously thought about triangles, I'd love you, if you're watching, please put a comment in the feed, and hopefully Emma will grab that and feed it through to us, because I'm interested to know. People say, rules of composition and the things that work in composition. There's all these talks about Fabonacci spirals and triangles intersecting and overlaying triangles and rules of thirds. Whereas actually, I think at the end of the day, it's just look at it. Does it look good? Now, rules are great guides to help you when you're first starting out. I get it. But I'd be interested to know, Annette, did you actually think about all those triangles when you did it? Or did you just think, right, that looks good, or I think we need a bit of light up here and a bit of a, like that? I'd love to know. Congratulations.
An-
Great one.
Another thing that is achieved. Another thing that is achieved so well when you're using blue and yellow tones, these two colors are complementary, so they're on the opposites on the opposite spectrum of the color wheel. When you're using a blue color in the background and you put it warm in the foreground, it creates an extreme sense of depth, and that is one of the things photographers need to create, because when you're taking a picture of the world around you, you do not have the benefit of capturing that with a pair of eyes, which gives you a stereoscopic vision and sensation of depth. You're supposed to recreate that in a two-dimensional plane. So when you're using a cool blue background and warm subject in the foreground, that automatically creates sensation of depth, which really, really works in here because of the lighting and because of the color. So again, Annette, this is fantastic. This is fantastic work. I love it.
I've just had a message come through. Annette said it was in my mind for a long time, and this was the perfect opportunity to execute it. So that kind of takes us back to what we were talking about at the beginning. about visualizing pictures, how an image begins in our mind and then comes out through our arms into whatever we're doing in the world, and then finally setting a few things on the camera to record it. Thank you for coming back to us, Annette, and I love the fact it was something that was on your mind for a while.
Okay, next one. Let's go with this one.
Who's this one, Benno?
This is by Gillum Martin. Gillum Martin.
Gillum. Benno, I don't know if everybody else is okay. In my headphones, Benno, you've gone very, very quiet. I don't know if anyone else is okay. Emma, can you ping me a message if
Really?
Benno's coming across okay? Though we've had so many audio issues that it's a minor one. I wouldn't worry too much. Just keep going.
Okay. I mean, is it working? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, it's the levels on screen say it's okay, but what's coming out of my headset is really quiet. But just keep going. Emma will tell me if it's not.
What I really, really like about this one, this is the first and the only picture of the entire hashtag PLD childhood that I've seen that is in fact an action shot. It's a piece of action frozen in time perfectly. I have not seen any other picture that. So it's a perfectly frozen moment of a childhood hero, specifically Wolverine. It's an action shot. It's a cool shot, and it's perfect for a character like that. So he liked this character as a child, and to take a picture of it as a static doll would just not make sense. You know what I mean? It's an action hero. An action hero does action stuff. So to take a picture of it this way just makes sense. I liked it. I liked it. It's an action shot. It means something to him. It looks cool. It's got cool colors. It's beautifully lit. It's just a cool shot.
It is. It's superbly done. I totally congratulate you for the work and the effort that went into doing it. And yeah, as Benno says, if it was just the dolls, it wouldn't have worked. It's the water flying through there that suddenly makes it, whoa, there's something going on here. Congratulations.
And I can only imagine how many takes it took. I don't think it was just the only take, because to get the water splash right, either it was too little, too wrong, or it was too much in front of the character. I'm sure it took a lot of takes before this one came up the way it is.
Yeah, I reckon there was an awful lot of cleaning up going on around that.
I can imagine, yeah. It's a cool shot. Okay, next one. Let's go with this one. I like this one for its simplicity. This is by Jenny Simpson. And Jenny Simpson, I think it's a really, really nice shot. It's nothing to do with a great composition or a great light, but I think the simplicity, the spontaneous feel of it, it doesn't look staged. It looks like a teddy bear was actually there. You looked at it, you remembered something, you took a shot of it, and you posted it. I like the simplicity of it. It's a really nice looking teddy bear. The composition is simple. There isn't too much information. There isn't too little information. I like the way its colors actually stand up from the rest of the picture as well, which is quite muted. And it just brings good memories. It just brings positive memories of a childhood. Everybody had a teddy bear. And the way it's captured here and the processed, I just like it.
It is completely lovely. It's like, I can imagine being on the top bunk, in the bedroom, and that'd just be something you see when you look towards the window. Like the fact there's a little bit of space, it makes it small, Everything's so big when you're a child, the windows are so big, and by giving space around the bear, you're in this great big room, even though if you visited it today, you'd think, whoa, this is a shoebox. When you're a kid, it's just this huge space.
And you can actually still see the damage on its nose, probably from the dog attacks in the past. This bear's been through some war battles. Yeah. It tells a story of time. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Nice one, Jenny.
Fabulous. Nice one, Jenny. Congratulations.
Okay, now we're going into the heavy category, and we'll go with this one. We'll go with this one. This is by Hal Larry. Hal, this is one of those pictures that I personally remember. It reminds me of an attic of my grandmother's house which was far away from where I lived, and I used to go there and spend every summer. And I would sneak into that attic. I would actually steal the key, open the door. Nobody would know that I went there. And it was dusty. It was very dark. And I remember being terrified of that attic. But I was so curious to see what was in that chest. So I opened that chest, absolutely terrorized. And I opened that chest and I saw old letters and old postcards. And I started going through them. And I remember it was so dusty I could barely breathe. And I remember going through them. And in one of those letters, it was actually a letter of my mom written 70 years ago when she was in the boarding school. And those were the letters sent back to my grandmother, telling her what her life in that school is, just describing day-to-day stuff. I just remember those. I remember those letters and visuals and the space of an attic. And when I saw this shot, it reminded me, okay, this attic looks like a lot smaller than the one I've been at, but the way the camera is framed and the darkness and the light coming from the side, you just sense, that there's a place where somebody was hiding all those things that mattered to him, and then he grew up and he forgot all about them. And then one day, I don't know, maybe he was renovating the house or cleaning the house, and he actually came across these. And, that's the moment captured. And it's just a really, really cool moment. I like the fact that the picture is not even straight, that the visual is actually rotated. It makes it look even more spontaneous, not staged at all. And it's just a real poignant moment, captured moment in time.
It's beautifully done. It really is. And I think you were a genius, actually, Benno, in coming up with this theme, Once Upon My Childhood, because it is so powerful and so evocative. And totally get it. I totally agree with everything you've said. There's not much I can add, really. I like the facts on a little bit of a tilt. I love that lone photograph with the light sort of slicing through it in the foreground. It's one of those things that it's not like it's something incredible, but it's magical. Do you know what I mean? It's not like...
That's what it is. That's what it is. It's extremely magical.
Yeah.
It looks like, literally, it looks like a movie poster of a Disney film. If it was maybe in a horizontal instead of vertical format, it easily could have been a poster for a Disney film. I can actually see the title above, and I can see the credits at the bottom, and in the cinema soon. You get the feeling?
Yeah, I do. I totally get that feeling. And this is, again, it's, so many people say, oh, well, I don't get to go anywhere amazing. But the real thing with photography, with image making, with art, all of this is about taking the ordinary and making it extraordinary. And I think this is a fabulous example. I love the way the light's coming from the corner in the bottom left. It's almost like the light isn't coming from the corner in the bottom left, it's coming from the window. When it looks like it's coming from the corner in the bottom left, it's almost like someone's shining a torch on it, but they're not. And this is where the mystery and the magic comes in, with a bunch of very ordinary, everyday objects.
Now, can you imagine, for example, this stack of things in a plain white room with no light, with no shadows? How absolutely forgettable this image would have been. So It's not just the subject, which is in fact the books and whatever we're looking at, but it's actually the setting, the lighting, and the background. The whole combination of all elements together is what creates this picture. That's why you cannot forget about the background when you're taking a shot like that. You cannot focus just on the subject, just on the foreground. You have to think about everything.
It is beautifully done. Congratulations.
Okay. All righty then. Now for the final two. And this is a very, really, really hard choice for me, but only one can win. Let's go with this one. And that to me is the first runners-up by Ka Gill. This image got me by the throat. I could literally feel a lump in my throat when I saw it, because I remember the two plum trees in front of my grandmother's house, and she always tied a rope between those two plum trees. And I remember how the sunlight came in the afternoon, and only in the afternoon, to illuminate the front side of the house where these two trees were. And she would always spread those bed sheets that she just washed. And I remember always hiding between them, walking past them and smelling the fragrance of the washing powder and the freshly washed linen. I remember being between those sheets, and I remember this point of view, and I remember what this looked like. It's a very simple image. There's so little going for it, so little, and yet so much. That's really it. I mean, from the photographic standpoint, this image could not have been simpler, and yet the emotion that it evokes, at least in me, this is just a perfect image of childhood. This is a point of view only a child could have. Only a child.
It's just like the being on the floor with the chair legs, isn't it? It's like,
That's
excuse
right.
me. I remember being a kid, you know, and we had 2 or 3 washing lines there, and you know, being a kid on a warm spring day, and going up and down in between the lines of washing, you can sort of feel the fabric of the sheets on your face, and smell the, you know, the washing liquid stuff. Yeah, congratulations. Cargill. I don't know. I remember you as Gill because this lady has been around my training for a very long time, actually. Congratulations, Kay, because it's just
absolutely beautiful shot. And again, this is out of the box thinking, or maybe it's completely in the box, one of the two. But whatever it is, it's a point of view that you could not have had unless you've actually experienced it yourself.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm guessing right now she's probably not watching this because she's in New Zealand. So, congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could give this image a first prize, but there's only one that can unfortunately win. And next time, I mean, with this kind of thinking, there's no doubt in my mind that she can produce these images probably consistently, because it takes a kind of thinking that can be taught.
Absolutely. Photography is about thinking. One of my online courses is about thinking. It's about the photographic thought process and how to get your brain firing and thinking. It's not about knobs and buttons and gadgets and the latest features and my camera's got 1 million features. It's not. It's about
You can learn that in it.
Look at your power shot, Benno. You could shoot that on a power shot. You could shoot that on a phone. You could shoot that on anything. Guys, Benno got an Emmy Award nomination for a shot you took on that power shot, didn't you?
That's right. I've actually taken a whole sequence of shots, of time-lapse shots, which ended up being extremely well received, and the time-lapse went viral. And I actually got a call from the BBC, and they were asking me if I would be willing to license that footage. And I said, well, I would prefer if you actually hire me. So whatever it is that you're working on, I'd rather be a part of, and that's how that became.
Absolutely amazing. You see, guys, cameras don't take pictures. You take pictures. Using a camera is different. Benno, do you want to show us your big hitter?
Yes, I hope it doesn't disappoint. I'm really apologizing in advance, but I think I did the honest selection, and it speaks to me, and this was my theme, so I get the privilege, right, Mike? Okay, there it is. Kill me. This is by Anna Lugovaya. So Anna Lugovaya. This picture is extremely simple. It shows you a pair of slippers in front of a curtain. It could have been on a ground floor. It could have been on a first floor, on a balcony. But it's an extremely melancholic image. What I like about it is just about everything. I like about it that it's just so simple. There's so little going on in the frame, and that it leaves you with a lot of space for interpretation. And I feel that whoever looks at this image can see a little bit of their own childhood and maybe a little bit of their own life in this frame. I mean, I read the description. I tend to not read the description because I didn't want to be influenced by it. I wanted to see the image and see what it speaks to me. And I got my story without reading it. I did read the description, and it sort of matched. It actually matched of what I thought this represents. Looking at something in the distance, could be a mom, could be a father, could be arriving, it could be leaving, but it could mean a lot of things. It could be saying goodbye to your childhood. It could literally means leaving your slippers and leaving your home into adulthood. It could mean a significant change in your life. Not always a happy story, because life, unfortunately, doesn't always turn out the way we want to. It's a path we take. And I think this is one of those images that just tells you about how life goes. it goes in a certain direction, and we take it, and then we see where it goes and where it leads you. It's
It's
about,
beautiful. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
it's very,
There's
very
nothing
beautiful.
I
It's a
can
very
add.
cinematic shot. Muted colors. It's a very cinematic. It's extremely cinematic. And it just, like I said, it says so much, so many different things with so little.
The old thing, keep it simple, is just so true. It is. It's beautiful. Congratulations, Anna. I can't add anything to what Benno has said. I've had no knowledge of the images that he's chosen. It's evocative. The light is beautiful. Just the way the drape sort of folds a little on the left is just, it's just beautifully simple. And
Look how soft and muted light. For example, I
yeah,
feel that if there was a strong sunlight, this image probably would lose half of its strength, half of its impact. But this muted light and muted colors just add to this deep sentiment that I see in this picture.
absolutely.
There's something genuine, something true, something genuine about it. It doesn't look staged at all. It doesn't look contrived. It just looks perfect.
And this is a thing, guys, for those of you who think, oh, let's add more in. Less is so often more. It's not about seeing how much you can add into the picture. I often hear comments from people saying like, oh, if you'd taken it and used the lens a bit wider, you'd have got the birds in too. But they're just going to be little dotty things that distract. There's nothing distracting here. You got very, very
Correct.
simple colors, lovely soft muted light. And because of the colors, because of the light, it's just, what
And
you're
you should
looking at.
remember, photographers should always remember that everything is either a part of composition or actually not a part of it.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking that by adding something, you're actually adding and improving the image, go ahead and you actually add that. But if you're actually thinking it's distracting from the story, if it's diluting the story, just take it out. More is absolutely not more of a story, it's just more clutter. So the story is to declutter the image and convey the story in as clean and as minimal way as possible. And here we're literally looking at a curtain, a pair of slippers, and a floor. That's really it. And yet, I don't know why, it just says so much.
It does. It's very ambiguous. But it's, and I totally agree, there's something melancholic about it. It's almost like someone has gone away.
Yes,
I don't know
that's
what it
I
is.
feel.
There's
Away.
something missing. It's like, I don't mean there's something missing from the photo. It gives a
That's
sense
right.
of slight sadness.
What's
Someone's gone
missing,
away.
Mike, what is missing is what you're trying to actually add. With your mind, you're trying to fill the blank.
Totally. Absolutely marvelous.
So, Anna, congratulations. You have, in my opinion, my very humble opinion, the best image in this particular context. So, good luck to you. And whatever you're doing in the future, do not stop doing this. I beg you.
Absolutely. Benno, let's see you back. Let's get you back on the screen, my friend.
All right.
And
we'll
do a bit of a Q&A session. There he is. Look at that cool background. Look at that environment that he's in. I just want to congratulate everybody for being part of that, because you really worked on that. And thank you for that challenge, Benno, because you knew exactly how to push people's emotional buttons and get them engaged, and it really, really did that. That was superb. And I also would like everybody to say a big thank you to Benno, because these things take a lot of time. It's not like, you can tell how much time this man has put into looking at your pictures. And I think everyone really appreciates it. So I'd just like to say thank you for that, Benno. Winners and runners up. My awesome PA, Emmeline, will be in touch with you very, very soon to have a little chat. We've got quite a few questions have come in. Where are we now? We're just over the hour, and I try to wrap it on an hour. But Benno, are you okay to answer a few questions? Because I know it's getting a bit late.
I'm very happy.
It's getting a bit late in your part of the world.
This is still early for me. You don't want to know.
I don't want to know. I'd have gone to bed by now. I'm a good, clean living boy. I don't know what you're laughing at. Okay, question from Louise B here. Benno, how does one learn the skill of pre-visualization?
Oh boy.
And by the way,
I
you got to do that in less than 10 words.
Yes, I should. How do you learn the art of pre-visualization? I don't think you can, frankly. I think it's something that everybody has. It's not something you learn. It's something everybody has, and you're essentially practicing that. You know what I mean? It's rusty, and it's there. We're born with it. We just practice it.
Exactly. It's imagination.
I think we learn it even from the day we're actually born. When you're playing with a Lego, that is actually already an exercise of pre-visualization. You want to build a house, you got your building blocks, you start building them, and then it becomes a house or something that resembles a house very roughly. But that is what we do when we grow up, when we build a sandcastle, when we build a house of a Lego, when we're actually building a robot. All those little things, we practice them all our life. So when we become adults, we just use different tools and our skills are a little bit more polished. But I don't think it's something that you go to school and then to become a visualization expert. Because those are just tools. You need to master the tools to visualize. Yeah, sure. Like software in my particular case, but
yeah, but that's
the
not
ability
that
to be able to
that
visualize something is imagination.
I've got to interrupt there because the software is not part of the pre-visualization. The pre-visualization happens in your head, and you use software to show other people what's in your head. Think of all the times you might hear a kid that come running through the kitchen, and mum goes, "Hey, stop running! What are you doing? Why are you in a hurry? I've got to go and draw a dinosaur." They have pre-visualized a dinosaur in their head, and now they're going to bring it out of their head through their arms and onto a piece of paper. Pre-visualization is imagination. Just to add to what Benno said, because I'm really, really hot on this. And again, this is what my photo training is all about, really. Not cameras. It's you and your creativity and your imagination. Pre-visualize. Imagine a photo. Okay, Louise, lay on the bed, lay on the floor, lay on the sofa, close your eyes and imagine a scene, a picture. I don't know what you're into, if it's horses or landscapes or dogs or cats or ponies or sports. I have no idea. But just imagine something that you know you could do. Imagine it in your head. And the more you imagine it, think about the light, the shade. Where are the elements of the composition? Imagine that in your head. Okay, and that you've just pre-visualized an image. Then all you need to do is to go out with your camera and then make that pre-visualization happen in the camera. Boom, you've done it. Shall I do another question here? Because I'm in trouble. These are so exciting. Could talk about it for hours, but we mustn't. Quick question from Dennis Mills. Benno, did you study architecture?
No, I actually studied microelectronics. I actually started microelectronics and microchip design and never finished that. It wasn't for me. I was in love with computer graphics, though, from the early 80s when first home computers came out and first video games came out. I was involved not just in playing games, but actually being involved in actually designing the graphics for these video games, very initial games in 1992 on a home computer called Sinclair Spectrum. People of my age may remember those little machines. So yeah, that was my love for computer graphics, and I've just taken it further later on in the 90s. And then I was working in my uncle's company, who actually owned an interior design company as well as an architectural consulting company. And at that time, they were doing everything by hand, drawing houses and interiors by hand, and it took forever. It was a very cumbersome process that took a lot of effort and with very little flexibility to change them after they were drawn. So I suggested to my uncle that we actually start a little computer animation, computer graphics, a little department that would take those drawings and make them into something that's a little bit more tangible, a lot more realistic looking, easier to edit and modify and impress our clients and essentially gain advantage over our competitors. And in fact, we did that with quite a bit of investment and quite a bit of training. Those days, computers were very primitive, very slow. So it took a lot of effort, a lot of computer power to create a visual that was realistic looking. And well, we succeeded. We created visuals and clients were blown away. They were absolutely blown away with the way those images looked like and those houses, the way they're going to look like once they're built. And it just went on more and more ambitious and more complex. And before we knew, we were doing computer animations, walkthroughs of entire projects, master plans, and so on. For example, Dubai Metro, the entire complex was animated in our studio. So we did that ages ago. Yeah, it was passion. It was something I genuinely loved doing. I would actually be doing computer animation and computer graphics, even if nobody wanted to pay for that, out of a hobby. I just really liked it that much. But like I said, when people did pay for it, it was just it became a motivation, and I got a lot more serious about it. So yeah, one thing led to another. Here I am, taking pictures and making films, but not with a computer anymore. I'm using cameras, but I'm still creating visuals as I always have, like I said, for more than 25 years now.
We got one here from Glacier Activity. Benno, do you have a common vision for your landscapes and your cityscapes? Do you cross-discover ideas between the two fields?
Yes, I do. I just want them to look very cinematic. I am a huge fan of sci-fi films, and they inspire me to create those visuals that I see in the films I like so much. I like to visuals and stuff in a way that do not necessarily represent the actual objective reality, but my own stylized. So I apply my own imagination, my own passion for what I see in the films, and I sort of fuse that with what my camera outputs. So this is how I create those visuals that are unique to me. They have this particular look that I hope is something that speaks of me, of my personality, of my own passion about visuals in general.
Benno, we got another one here from Jill 3D. Benno, how do you go about getting the richest colors in camera?
Richest cameras, I don't. I do not. I shoot raw, which means that the colors, the way they come out of the camera, are completely flat, boring, and just not interesting. This is how I have the latitude to extract the maximum amount of information in the image in terms of color, in terms of color contrast. I need to shoot raw. And I do all those trickery and all that magic inside later on in post-production, but I'm not too concerned with the way colors look like inside the camera. I'm very much concerned with the way light looks in the camera. I make sure that the light is shining onto the subject from the right direction, that it doesn't illuminate it from behind my back directly into the subject, which makes it look flat. I make sure that the subject is not backlit, that it has a certain direction, either 45 degrees from the left or 45 degrees from the right side. It gives me the depth, it creates shadows, and it creates an illusion of the depth. So lighting is very important. You have to get that right into the camera, and you have to get composition right into the camera, because you're not going to change that in post. You could, but it would be quite complicated. So I get those things right in the camera. When it comes to colors, that is all done in the post. And I have the ability with digital technology to change the color palette of the image entirely, completely. I call that color remapping. So I can change the look of the scene totally. I can make a night scene to appear like daytime scene. I can inverse that. I can make the image look very melancholic, or I can make it look really happy. All those tools that I'm provided with in post-production, which is very sophisticated today, I feel that I have no limitation. I'm not limited in any way, shape, or form. And I can express myself in absolutely any way with these tools. That's how powerful they are. So I hope that answers the question.
Good answer. Emily Henvey asked, Benno, how long do you spend studying and researching your locations? What does studying and researching your location actually look like for you?
I can tell you that I spend a lot more time researching my location than I do shooting it. In fact, I would say in an average cycle, which starts with the research to the actual shoot to the final post-production, I would say about 40% of that time is spent on research and planning, and about 10% on the actual shoot, and that is already 50%. And then the other 50, which is the biggest chunk, is post-production. I'm guessing that this is more or less the same for every professional photographer. But if you're shooting, for example, street, and you're inspired by little moments, then yeah, planning probably doesn't take this much importance, because you need to walk the street, see something interesting, you take a shot of it. So you need to have good timing. You need to have good timing and a really quick finger, and making sure that your image is in a perfect focus and a perfect light. So quick thinking with very little planning. And I think street photography also doesn't require as much time spent in post-production because you're trying to convey the moment as it actually occurred. So you can't cheat a lot there. You can't remove a person from a scene or add a person because you think it's going to make the picture look better. Some people do it, and it's unfortunate. Photojournalism, for example, is another branch of photography where you shouldn't be playing around with a scene. But in my particular case, I do a lot of planning. My subjects are static. They're buildings. They don't move. They don't walk. So I have time. I have time to see them, walk around them, and make sure that I know what is the right time to take a picture, when the sun will be positioned on the day that I'm planning to take a picture. I study the weather to make sure that that day has the right weather. If I'm expecting to have clouds, that I'm shooting on the day where there are clouds, or if I want to have plain blue sky, that I shoot on that particular day. And then I need to know that there are security issues. If I'm required to have a permit to shoot, I need to source the permit. And if there's a particular requirement in terms of lens that I need to carry or equipment, I may plan to come with an assistant, and so on. There are a lot of things I need to consider, and I use, like I said, my own legs to go there to the location and see it. And I also use applications to study them on my iPad to see where the sun will be shining from, where the shadows will be cast, and so on. I also go to the location to see if there's anything blocking the particular subject. If there's a building that is in the view, maybe it's a tree, maybe a lot of things can happen. There could be a construction crane that I need to pay attention to and reposition myself. So lots and lots and lots of planning. Nothing happens spontaneously in the pictures that I'm taking. Whether I'm taking them for myself or for the client, it's just not a lot of spontaneity. It's extremely accurate. It's a very tedious process. It takes a lot of time, a lot of patience. And once I go to the location, I take exactly the camera that I need, the exact precise lens that I need, not all the gear that I own, only the lens that I need. So I go on location, I take that shot, and I go home and I start editing. And editing is where I actually finalize and materialize that vision that I had pre-visualized before I actually even took that shot. So in the end, I compare that picture and I sort of compare it with the picture I've taken in my mind weeks ago, and I see, is that it? Did I get there? Am I far from it? Should I edit it in a different way? Is it saying what I was hoping it's going to say to me? So all those things, yeah, there's a lot of thinking. I have a lot of dialogues with my own head once I'm actually done with a picture, and sometimes I just put the whole image on the side. I'm not happy, and I leave it for a whole year. And then a year later, I open the same file again, and I'm like, what was I thinking last year? Why are those colors so funny looking? And whatever. I re-edit the whole thing from scratch. And then, you look at the image again, I'm like, yeah, this is what I was hoping to get. So I have actually multiple images of the same shot that I've taken over the course of years, multiple versions, multiple edits, and I usually like just one or not even one. So yeah, that's how that goes.
Excuse me. Benno, can we just quickly, because I'm very aware we've gone on quite a long time, but it's been so interesting listening to you, and there are still questions coming in. I'm so sorry, guys, we can't do all of them. But would you mind I'm just bringing up now, you've got the YouTube live feed going on next to you, haven't you?
I do.
This picture, this image here, which I'm guessing is Dubai with the mist. Can you talk us a little bit about that image, which I've just put on screen so everyone can see it? Hang on, guys. Sorry, Benno, I think we've got no audio. The sound has disappeared. Hang on. Bear with me. This is embarrassing and painful. This is what we were fighting with, guys, earlier. And I haven't managed to build Benno's audio into this platform. I'm sorry, because we had so many problems. Hang on, bear with me, Benno. I'm building this in as we go. And then, okay, speak to me. Yeah, I think so. Can you hear him now, guys? Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I was planning to take this shot for a long time. And here's the problem. This fog is extremely difficult to forecast. You could be looking at a forecast and you could be planning for it, and you go there early in the morning when it normally arrives, and the fog is simply not there. Or you have the permit to be on a rooftop in that particular location, fog doesn't come, or it comes and it's too high. It's actually above the rooftop where you're standing. So you're looking at the gray image in front of you instead of this visual that you're seeing here. So the timing for you to be on that rooftop and the timing of the fog rolling into the city, those two things need to align, and that rarely happens. Can you hear me, Mike, still?
Yeah. No, I think we're good.
Yeah, so anyway, these two things rarely align. And this was one of those occasions when it did align and I managed to get that shot, but I did enhance it. What happened was there was the fog in this entire picture, but in the bottom left corner where you see the fog, there was no fog. For some reason, the fog moved in a way that it exposed the bottom left corner, and you could see the construction side and the road, and it just didn't look pretty. So I actually enhanced it, and I added a layer of fog to close that corner to make it look like one unique flowing ocean of fog. So I've done that, and I've also enhanced the sun in the upper right corner, which was slightly outside of the frame. I didn't like it. I've actually brought the sun more to the left to create a more balanced composition in this particular image. And I've also enhanced the sky. And yeah, that's about it. But like I said, this kind of image is closer to me, the way I visualized it, than what I actually captured with the camera. So that's what I was saying earlier, that I'm not necessarily after the reality, the objective one, but I am actually after what I'm picturing in my head. So yeah, this is how this image came to be.
And I can imagine there's a lot of people who will disagree with that. There's an awful lot of people out there who are going to say, oh, that's not real photography. But the thing is, times change, things move on a bit. Benno, I'd like to just bring up one more of your pictures, if I may, and then we really are going to have to wrap it up. I'm so sorry, guys. There's so many brilliant comments that you heard and questions. Unfortunately, there's a few in there, like, which lens is best and things like that. We're going to just move on. Benno,
Yeah.
this, I believe, is a multi-image panoramic.
I'm not seeing it yet. Okay, I see it now. Yeah, this is a multi-image panorama, and this is actually myself and my wife on the rooftop of a hotel in Santorini in Greece, where we stayed for a day. Well, the view is spectacular, and I wanted to be in that view. I wasn't happy with a picture of the islands and the sea alone. I felt it would be incomplete. In fact, this bench alone would have been incomplete with a person as a focal point in the center. So I just used myself and my wife as a model to add that focal point. So I brought the camera and I had a tripod with me, and I placed it very carefully, making sure that it was perfectly centered, because in a picture like that, symmetry is very important. I had the horizon just the right place. I had the light shining from the left side, the way I wanted it to. And I had a remote trigger. I was using Cam Ranger, which was connected to my camera, and I was controlling the Cam Ranger from my telephone, which had the Cam Ranger app. So as I'm sitting on that bench and looking into the distance, I'm actually operating the phone and the exposure and the brackets of this particular frame, trying to look as spontaneous as I could. So yeah, I took multiple pictures. I took, in fact, I believe 3 or 4 vertically oriented pictures from left to right, and each exposure had 5 bracketed exposure from +2 stops down to -2 stops. So in post-production, I merged those 5 exposures into one high dynamic range picture, and then created 4 high dynamic range pictures, and then stitched them together into one panorama in Photoshop. And after I had a complete panorama, I trimmed it. I filled all the missing gaps. I used alignment tool, making sure that the wall, which is in front of the bench, was perfectly straight. And I straightened the horizon and everything. And after that, I did the final grade. I changed the color of the sky a little bit. I made it deeper blue. I added the gradient, and I brightened the horizon a little bit to create that extra depth in the image. So yeah, quite a bit of work, but it's a cool image to bring back from a trip like the one in Santorini, and I have it printed, and it's on the bedroom of my house. It's a beautiful little frame, and a cool little reminder every morning that there are better places to be in any given moment than where you are.
Which kind of brings us full circle back to what makes you get out of bed in the morning. But the other thing
Exactly.
is, guys, those of you who are so very anti any post-production work, what you've got to realize is all these images look completely natural, don't they? You imagine being there, stood there, looking at that scene behind Benno. I believe your wife's name's Muriel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Standing behind Benno Muriel, sitting on that bench. That is pretty much how it would look to your eye. But you couldn't capture that with a camera because, as Benno said, to go that wide angle with a camera, you're going to get distortion. The wall isn't going to be straight, it's going to be curved. Same with the horizon. You're going to get all sorts of distortion. And that's where a lot of post-production work comes in, actually, to make an image look
Not just
natural.
that, but there was a lot of haze in the image. In fact, this image, straight out of camera, looked completely desaturated. There was a lot of haze because that area is quite humid. You're by the sea. There's a lot of haze in the air. The image looked quite misty. The colors were not saturated. It looked quite dull, to be honest. It didn't look the way the camera captured it was not the way I've actually seen it or the way I've actually remember seeing it. And as you said, the field of vision the human eyes have is much wider than let's say a 50 or 30, 24 millimeter lens. So to sort of replicate the field of vision, panoramic capture worked a lot better. And then the enhancement in post-production, I managed to recover all those colors and this beautiful contrast that I remember seeing. You cannot do that. You cannot achieve that by simply bringing the image out of the camera and just going directly into printing. You would lose that feel, that emotional impact of that particular scene.
And that has gone on since the days of black and white with messing about,
Exactly.
playing around with different contrast grades, etc. Benno, we've got to call an end to it. I could talk to you all evening, and I think many others could too, because of the wonderful questions that are still popping in. So I'd just like to thank you immensely for your time and your generosity.
Well, thank you
and
so
your
much for
wisdom.
having me. It was a joy. It was no suffering at all. I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much for inviting me. I like looking at the work. I like coming up with a theme and seeing all these beautiful pictures. And I really appreciated all the effort that the photographers put in. I was actually really surprised. I did not expect this much effort to be put into those pictures. I'm really impressed.
They're a good
So
crowd. They're a good crowd.
we have to do that again, Mike. We have to do that again.
Yeah, I'm completely up for that. Completely up for that. Completely up for that. I was going to make a little announcement, people, but I'm not now because it's too late. All I did want to say to you is you've heard one of the world's greatest experts in pre-visualization speaking about how the way you think is one of the most powerful things in photography. So I am going to plug my 7 building blocks of photography online course, because if you're in lockdown right now, this is a great time for you to go and practice. There's even a whole section about doing stuff on a tabletop in your kitchen. So there's no excuse. Just really go and have a look at this, because the way you think, everything that happens out here in the world is a printout of what's going on in your head. It's not a function of the features and gadgets you've bought. So guys, thank you all very much for watching and for listening. A final thank you to Benno, and in a moment we will be putting up the next photography challenge for PhotoLockdown. It will go live in a minute. Give me about 5 or 10 minutes, because it takes a little while just to do a few things, and I'm crap with tech. Thank you again, Benno.
Thank you so much, Mike. Good luck. All the best.
Thank you, my friend. Look forward to speaking to you again soon. Take care, everybody.
Likewise.